Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Monday. I hope you are ready for some pro wrestling punditry to get your week going right. It's me, the Wrestling Inc. managing editor, Nick Hausman, joined here today by a very special guest co-host. I see Rob Humphrey here saying, did Michael get fired? No, Michael's down at the beach. He's on vacation, and we are fortunate this week to be blessed here on this Monday after Extreme Rules by veteran WWE referee Jimmy Korderas. Jimmy, welcome to the Wrestling Inc. Daily live recording portion of the show.
Oh, thank you. You may regret it after having me on a mic live, but other than that, I'm so happy to be here, and especially after what I thought was a great week of wrestling. My goodness.
Yeah, no kidding, right? That Grand Slam show on Wednesday and then leading into Friday. I mean, yeah, real quick. I mean, what are your takeaways? What did you think about what was the last week in pro wrestling?
I thought it was good. Surprisingly, from last Monday, I actually enjoyed Raw despite being 3 hours. You know, sometimes it's hard to sit through it, but I kind of enjoyed it. And then that Grand Slam was off the charts. And look, it's all about us as fans enjoying it. And you can see that the fans there live were like loving every minute of it. You had Brian, sorry, I can't get out of the habit, but Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. What a match to open things up, and just, and you can make little critiques about certain little things, but at the same time, everybody's having so much fun, and that's what it's about, entertaining your audience.
Yeah, Jimmy, totally. Like right now, it does seem like the most fun that pro wrestling has had in, I mean, at least a decade. I mean, there's a real energy around the pro wrestling products at the moment. Let me ask you real quick before, because we're going to get into the business side of it here in a little bit, but do you think that WWE, even though it's getting like what competitive or whatever you want to say, you think they benefit from all of this? Like pro wrestling as an industry is just far more engaging than it was a few years ago because there's competition in the room, I feel like.
No, I absolutely agree with that. And it wasn't too long ago where I read it on your website here where Eric Bischoff mentioned that sometimes you need to light a fire under the butt of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And when he's been on top for so long and there doesn't seem to be anybody pushing him, I don't want to say he gets on cruise control, but once he gets that little nudge from behind, and I don't know if you want to reference it by saying AEW's nipping at his heels, but AEW is on the rise.
Right.
Let's put it that way. They're doing well, and I wish them all the best. Honestly, I do. I want them to do well and be successful. But once Vince gets notice of that, all of a sudden something gets stirring inside, and he says, "Hey, we got to start moving in a different direction," and that's what appears they're doing right now.
Well, we'll get into that. Some people agree. Maybe some people, it's a 2 step forward, 1 step back kind of deal. We'll talk about it. Of course, we are going to lead off the news block here with Extreme Rules Talk in just a moment. And like I showed you, I have the ability to take comments out of the comments section, put them on the screen. So as Jimmy and I are talking here today, if you have thoughts, we have like A. O'Donnell here, 025. Wrestling was great last week, and now I get to start off with just a great Raw tonight. And I guess that was sarcasm there because he had the zippy face emoji. I don't know. I'm guessing it was sarcasm, Jimmy. Not positive.
It may have been a little bit of sarcasm, but look, they're taking a page. Maybe some people will look at it this way, where they're taking a page out of the AEW book and starting off Raw with a hot match, Big E versus Lashley. So, the challenge is going for. I know we're going to discuss this later, but
sure.
The challenge going forward is. Sure, you're going to start off hot, but you got to keep me interested throughout the entire show. And it's difficult when it's 3 hours.
Okay, well, I do have thoughts on that, and we will dive back into that in just a moment. But yes, after we talk the news of the day, after the news block, if you're in audio form, you're going to get to hear my latest conversation with Ariane Andrew, the former Cameron in WWE. She's got new music out, talks about a potential return, gets her take on some of the top-line pro wrestling news items of the past week. So stick around for Ariane. If you watch us in video form live here, as you can do Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel, head over to the YouTube channel shortly after this. We got about 55 minutes till that is going to debut in video form over on the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel, so you can check out me and Jimmy. Then go check out me and Ariane. And at the end of the show, for everybody in the mailbag segment, we are going to look at the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble match. It is already Rumble season. We got an update here from WWE. All right, so with that, news you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. Let's talk about Extreme Rules. Now, the main event was the only Extreme Rules match of the entire night. It was Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, the Demon, for the Universal title. Well, I guess I'll read the result here. Of course, yeah. Roman retained. Hard fought match. Very brutal. I love the part where Roman, when he had to go fight Finn on the outside, put on a mask. Did you see that?
Yes.
Right? Man.
The little things that matter. My old friend Kyle Edwards and I used to talk about that a lot. It's the little things that just stand out. And that was one little thing that, let me put it to you this way. When I saw it, I popped.
Yeah. Oh, total pop.
Yeah.
I tweeted out GOAT status, right? I mean, during a pandemic, like to be the first and I think only wrestler to this point to be like, hey, if I'm going to go brawl out amongst the fans during a pandemic, maybe I should put on a mask. I appreciate that,
I do too. It was awesome.
I always worry about CM Punk a little bit because he keeps doing the crowd dive. And I don't know if that's a good idea for him during a pandemic, Jimmy.
Not only for a pandemic, but you know what? When you in this business, you trust your opponent to help you, to catch you. And I don't know if I'm diving into a crowd where they're not accustomed to catching people. You know what I mean? I'm looking at it more from a safety issue from landing as opposed to catching something.
Well, I mean, whatever you could or could not be catching, I think there's concerns there, right?
Exactly.
So we have this match here. And we have the finish here. Roman Reigns defeats Finn Balor. Now, there was this moment just before the finish. Both men are on the outside. They go down. Big spot. I think it was at the table or something with the Usos are involved. Forget exactly how we got there, but Finn Balor face down on the ground. And then we hear the heartbeat of the music. And the man starts to flail like a fish out of water. But it is bringing him back to life, Jimmy. And he finds himself. He finds his energy. He goes on the warpath. He takes Roman into the ring. He's up on the top rope. There's this music and red lights and fog, and he looks so menacing. He's about to hit that coup de grace. And then the top rope breaks. Then he gets speared, and then he gets pinned.
Right.
And a lot of people did not seem to like the finish of this particular match. Jimmy, what was your reaction to the finish, the main event at Extreme Rules?
Man, I to be completely honest with you, I was kind of okay with the creativity, trying to think outside the box, but at the same time, it was kind of like it didn't fit. The top rope breaking spot didn't fit with Finn Balor. I mean, like if it was somebody that was bigger, I could understand it, that kind of thing. Accidents happen, and I like the idea of a mechanical mishap happening with the ring. But there was something. I'm going to wait till Friday, and I'll tell you something that I noticed briefly. Okay, when the whole thing was going on, just before they went into the lights changing and the heart beating and stuff like that, there was an angle they shoot, and I know that WWE usually is very careful about not putting other cameramen and stuff like that in their shots,
right?
In their camera shots. And when they were shooting from outside the ring, do you remember which corner of the rope broke? It wasn't the corner where he was standing.
No, I look like the far left to me is what it looked like.
It was the opposite corner. And in that opposite corner, while they were down on the floor on the outside, there was a cameraman standing up there on the rope, on the corner. And he got it briefly in a shot there. And I said, wow, that was weird that they showed him. Now, let's say we're going to, again, fantasy booker here. We're looking forward to Friday, and we find out that it wasn't a mechanical mishap as everybody's supposing. Maybe that cameraman was a plant by the bloodline to do that, or to be there just in case, and he was responsible for the top rope breaking, helping Roman Reigns win the match.
Okay. Similarly, I didn't catch the cameraman. That's a very good tell. I was keeping my eyes on Heyman the whole time. I didn't know if maybe he had jumped out a shot and done something, but it also did not feel like a technical mistake. It felt very, very intentional for that to happen there.
Right. And again, like I said, I don't know if that's where the direction they're going in, but is it possible that it's someone that they could add to the bloodline and add to this group that would actually make sense? Is there someone else in the family that they might be able to add to it?
I mean, the only person I could think of would be Naomi. And Naomi, teaming up with her husband, she just got fined by WWE for having the gall to ask for a match on SmackDown while being assigned talent there. A bit of a axe to grind. Possibly. I wouldn't rule that out.
No. I'm don't have any inside info as people, look for it. But I'm trying to speculate and make sense of it, as opposed to it just being a mechanical malfunction at the junction, and Roman looking to the heavens and saying thank you.
Well, we have Jason PS3 here saying there is an Uso at the PC. Yeah, there was another member of the Anawahi family that was recruited as part of the latest Performance Center class, I believe, correct?
Yes, I don't want to 100% confirm this, but yes, I believe there is.
I believe there is as well. So possible. It's another outside the box option. We also have King Rail. I have seen a few fans say this, not a mishap. That was God. And, God has wrestled in WWE before. Maybe we did see him make his comeback at Extreme.
Yeah. You never know. You never know.
I like this one. I don't know if you'll get this reference, DX Vex. Finn was like a pumped up Magikarp. That's a Pokemon reference. Thank you, DX. Appreciate that.
I'm an old fart, as they say. So the Pokemon stuff goes.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to be an old fart here soon enough, and I'm going to be talking about Pokemon, and it's going to be all these NFT talks, and they're going to think I'm old too. It's whatever. So yeah, John Q got his 2-0. That's great. All right. So yeah, that was the main event. We'll see how it plays out on SmackDown on Friday. But this is what I hate. Like Paul Heyman main event matches, he loved to do this. Controversy, questions, right? You want to be asking questions as you may not have liked it, but you feel engaged, I think, is usually the logic with moves like this, correct?
That's the goal, at least. Anyways, I don't know if it worked with a lot of fans out there.
Yeah.
I'm speculating that this wasn't just a mishap, and hopefully there is a story behind this, as opposed to it just being a one-off.
I saw a couple fans out there, in particular, a friend of the show, John Alba, was talking about the danger of doing something like this, like having a talent on the top rope and then having the buckle go out from underneath them. And how did you have any kind of thoughts on, like, if you thought it was a well executed, needed, necessary, well done spot, dangerous spot, anything like that?
There's always a danger, because with something that is an inanimate object, you don't know how it's going to react. And yes, we know that the rope is going to collapse, but at the same time, there's so many factors in play. Are you ready? Are you truly ready for it when it exactly happens? And to me, the hard part was, obviously Finn knew it was coming, but with all that smoke and all that stuff going on, do you know exactly when it's coming? And that's the hard part. And when you're dropping down, there's always that chance that something, you don't land right, or your foot hits that middle rope and turns the wrong way. It's a tough spot, but they got through it for what it was.
Did you like the Finn being reanimated with the music and stuff like that? Do you think he came well?
I don't know. I don't know if I liked him going from zero to hero. Obviously there was no selling anything after that.
Well, but that's the weird thing, is like there was no selling when you're in a state like that, but then he got speared and he was pinned cleanly, very, I don't know. Very
the red light was off by then, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. Never mind. But just a very weird, like, what a weird spot for Finn to be in here. Like, I don't think anybody expected him to win this, come out on the winning end of this program. I mean, where does this put Finn in the grand scheme of things? Help, hurt? What do you think happens with Finn now?
I think it leaves him in limbo. I mean, it obviously gave him an out, so to speak, but at the same time, they're gearing up towards a different direction coming up next month. So do they readdress this again on Friday? Is that when do they do the rematch between these two on free TV? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, heck, we're going to, like you said, hey, the other championship match here, Big E, we're going to have tonight, Big E taking on Lashley, like you mentioned at the top of the show. This is spinning out of the opening tag match where Big E and the New Day took on Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, and Omos. Big E just won this title, free TV. Not a lot of time to put together a pay-per-view match.
Right.
They threw him in this opening 6-man match. I saw a lot of people kind of rubbed a little wrong by that. It wasn't announced, nothing like that. Now you're just kind of getting thrown into a rematch tomorrow night with Lashley and Big E that, like you say, maybe taking a note from AEW's playbook, starting the show off hot to try to roll into it. Do you have any issues with the way that they've booked Big E here since winning the title?
Not a whole lot. I'm okay with it, because I want to see Big E. I want to see this title reign last. I don't want it to be a quick fix for something or to I like, for example, tonight, I don't see the title going back onto Bobby Lashley, but I do like the idea of Bobby being a little more animated, a little hot, for lack of a better term. He's showing some fire in his promos and stuff like that. But I want this match to be a showcase for Big E and to elevate him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm hoping for from this match. I don't want it to be, okay, we're setting up this main event match style, caliber match to kick off the show, only to set up something later on. And I'm okay with that as well. But at the same time, this needs to be a showcase for Big E. He needs to be elevated tonight in some form or fashion.
But that's the thing, is like, I went back and forth with our good friend Aaron Oster on Twitter last night about this. And, he seems to think you don't need to do a whole lot of work, right? The guy gets his rematch and stuff like that. But it's not so simple right now, because you have this guy in Bobby Lashley who has had 2, maybe 3 matches with Big E since losing the title. 3, because he did the opening tag match before it became a triple threat. No, he interfered in the opening tag match, so he's only had 2. Sorry, I got to keep it right in my head. But, was in that triple threat match on Raw, took the pin for Big E there. Was in this 6-man tag at Extreme Rules, took the pin there. Doesn't look exceptionally strong going into this. WWE has openly said you don't get mandatory rematches when you lose the title anymore. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of, he just went in the back after the 6-man loss, in my opinion, just kind of not menacingly demanded this match, but kind of like a poo-poo pouty kind of, whining about it. Doesn't feel like the hottest way to set up this match, especially with a guy like Lashley, because I agree with you. I hope that we see Lashley speak with his actions here. I mean, there was a million ways you could have set up this bout other than what they did last night, Jimmy. I mean, dragging Xavier Woods through the hallways, screaming Big E's name, something to put some heat on it. And this just feels like we got to do it. We're going to do it. And then I guess we'll see where we go from there.
I agree with that. It seems to be the modus operandi lately, where someone busts into the office with the authority figures and just complains and whines and moans and says, "I want a match against this person." Okay, here you go.
Yeah,
I hate labeling it as lazy booking or a lazy way out, but it just doesn't feel very. You talk about creative, it doesn't feel very creative.
No, it doesn't feel like creative at all to me. I see here Lady Wiz, they really should be at the Hurt Business versus the New Day. Shake my head. And, we saw them pull MVP, I guess, away from Bobby now. He's a man alone. Mm-hmm. I do think maybe it's time for that boomerang to come back around. I don't know. I mean, Bobby's the best he's ever been. He's a very compelling character. But again, like what we're just talking about, him alone in the back, trying to cut promos from a non-dominant position, it just doesn't click like when he was surrounded by guys that made him feel bigger and more important to me.
Mm-hmm. No, I could see that. But at the same time, people enjoy like you said, a amped up Bobby Lashley. And when he does that, he's actually very good at it. And I don't know if this is more by design to make him whiny so that people can not get behind him and kind of say, "Oh, look at this big, tough guy. And he sounds like a whiny baby." It's almost like an old school mentality kind of, look, I dislike this guy. This guy shouldn't be a whiner. He shouldn't be a complainer. He's got all the tools. He's the complete package.
Right.
So why is he coming off here like give him a baby bottle kind of?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And the thing for me too is like, it's such, again, we started the show, by the way, talking about how the fact that pro wrestling as a whole doing well is good for WWE. It brings more eyeballs to WWE. The whole business does better when it's hot and fun like this. But you're fighting right now for the narrative, right? You're fighting right now for that social momentum. And I would feel like, just like you said at the top too, like what Eric said, like this is a situation where Vince's back is against the wall. He's going to put something in your face that's really going to grab you. And like, if that's going to happen, I hope it happens tonight, because I don't think they did that last night, Jimmy. I don't think they showed me anything different or new or change a tone or anything to make me think Vince is really making a huge change in his direction at the moment.
Yeah, you could say that. That's a fair assessment. But at the same time, regardless of what you thought of some of the finishes to last night's matches, I thought it was overall an entertaining pay-per-view. And you could tell because for the most part, the crowd there in Columbus, Ohio was into it. You were getting the reactions you want. And as we've said before, during pandemic times, when there was no audience there, you weren't getting that feedback. You didn't know what was clicking and what was not. But last night, I think they got a good taste of what the audience was into and what they were not into.
So that is a very good point, Jimmy. I almost tweeted out, but I had to stop myself because I was like, I don't want this conversation. But like the reaction of where was it last time? It was Columbia? Is that where they were?
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. The way that the fans in Columbus, Ohio reacted to many things last night on that show is why we are not allowed to have nice things, Jimmy. Because like there was certain things I feel like we're getting a reaction maybe as like a more traditional wrestling fan that I did not think deserved the giant reactions they were getting, and maybe would embolden Vince and co to make some more decisions like that. You know, people unhappy with the main event, with the finish to that, because it was a mess, even though it was an Extreme Rules match. So I guess you can make excuses. But this women's SmackDown Women's Championship match between Becky, Bianca Belair, a hard fought bout, the bout I think a lot of people wanted to see at SummerSlam with Becky taking that title. And we don't get a decisive winner. We get Sasha Banks returning to what was probably the biggest reaction of the entire night. And it was the fans cheering on the finish to the arguably second most hype match on the show being taken away from them in favor of another superstar just returning to the fold, Jimmy.
Yeah, I wasn't big on this, and not so much because Sasha Banks interfered in the match and caused the match to be thrown out, basically, or DQ.
Right.
What I didn't like about it is I being the old fart, I'm very traditionalist. I like to see defined heels and baby faces. And when Sasha came in and she attacked Bianca Belair right off the get-go, I thought, okay, here she is. She's a heel, and then she attacks Becky Lynch, and now here we go with that tweener thing. I don't know whether I should be cheering her. I don't know whether I should be booing her. You know, Becky Lynch, is she working as a heel right now? She's doing great, you know, with her presentation as a heel, but the fans aren't buying her as a heel.
Yeah.
They want to cheer her.
Yeah.
So, man, see, it's hard. And with Sasha returning the way she did, again, kind of messed up the finish. And I get it. You didn't want another match where you want to protect both participants involved. It's just, again, it was how do we get out of this? Oh, we'll send Sasha down. She'll just
see. But the thing is, like, I don't think that Bianca would have been hurt that bad by losing a competitive bout to Becky Lynch, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think I maybe it's just me, but I just don't think it would have done her any real harm. There's a million different ways you could have got back some momentum starting on Friday with Bianca clawing her way back to chasing Becky Lynch, and then you could have had Sasha come in afterwards and set up a Sasha Becky program where Bianca goes and finds herself a little bit. Yeah, that's not crazy, right?
No, it's not. And correct me if I'm wrong. There was that one spot on the floor where Becky shot Sasha into the steel steps. It was that I don't remember exactly what it was. That flip spot kind of.
Yeah. I got you.
I mean, why not use that to set up the finish?
Right.
You know what I mean? I think everybody's on one hand, okay, how do we get out of this? Oh, we'll just do this. But on the other hand, they're overthinking everything at the same time, if that makes any kind of sense. Is that you're overthinking, but at the same time, in the process of overthinking, you're saying, well, let's take the easy way out.
Well, but that's the thing is like, I feel like there's just too much overthinking going on in general, right? Like sometimes you just want to let the fans have an idea of where something's going and either give it to them directly or shades of that, right? We got too much that was just all over the place for me on Extreme Rules last night. I think a lot of the stuff we just laid out there would have worked great, with Becky and Sasha and Bianca. But DX Vex here saying, Jimmy, that's what gets the fans coming on Friday to see what Sasha says. What's your response to something like that?
Well, if that's the case, if he's interested to find out what happens on Friday, that's the goal, is it not? To get people to tune in to see the continuing story. And I'm curious to hear what she has to say as well. And like I said earlier, curious to find out if there's anything more to the Roman thing with Finn Balor. Right. It's all about getting people interested in the story going forward. As I've said before on this show, a legend once said to me, in this business, we don't sell motion, we sell emotion. And that's hopefully what we're getting here. I think again, the finish lacked a little bit. It was a little too flat for me, but at the same time, I am curious to hear what she has to say and how she says it. And does she come off as a clear babyface or a clear heel? I don't know.
Well, so we're talking about these SmackDown main event matches. Both of them end in some controversy, a lot of questions. But then over on the Raw side of it, we already talked about Big E and Lashley. How we think there could have been maybe a hotter way to get people engaged with that and tuning into Raw tonight. On the women's championship side of it, you have Charlotte Flair defeating Alexa Bliss. After the match, she picks up Lily. She rips this doll to shreds. Alexa attacks her. Charlotte, is able to fight her off, takes off, laughing. Very different feel on the Raw side of things than what we got with SmackDown.
Yeah, definitely a different feel. Again, not sure how I like. See, Alexa Bliss is a wonderful talent. And she's pulling off the character she's portraying well, but at the same time, it's not resonating with me personally. I want to see something different from Alexa Bliss because I think she is, again, like I said, a wonderful in-ring talent. Hopefully, this tearing up of the doll Lily and stuff like that is the beginning of the end of this incarnation of Alexa Bliss. Hopefully, we move on from this and she starts to snap out of this post-Bray Wyatt character, for lack of a better term, and moves on to a newer, more intriguing version of Alexa Bliss.
It did kind of feel like it could be the end of this incarnation of Alexa last night. Did it not?
A little bit. That's what I was hoping for. I got my fingers crossed that it moves in a different direction. And sometimes, be careful of what you wish for because sometimes it's not as. Anyways.
Yeah, and I would be fine with her going off in another direction. You can always revisit this, right? Right place, right time. Something I wanted to say about Becky earlier as we were talking about her as a heel that I blanked on and wanted to bring up. But like the reason I think that the heel version of Becky isn't connecting the way maybe she or they wanted. And I thought a lot about this last night. Like, why did they do the Becky heel turn? Well, Bayley went down. She was your top heel. Everything was kind of centered around her. So you needed to fill that void. So I guess the argument could be made that Becky could do that for the time being, at least till Bayley could get back in the fold and put over a Bianca, whoever it may be. But like, when you have characters that are at the level of a Becky Lynch, you or at least you should, I feel, wait for the fans to dictate that, right? The fans will tell you when they're getting tired of something, it's time to turn them a heel. Fans will tell you when they're getting tired of seeing them as a heel and they're warming back up to them again, and you can do the flip. They did it independent of the fans, and it very much smacks to me of like the Steve Austin WrestleMania 17 finish there. 17 or 18? 17. No, 18. Was it 18 where he turned on and became Prince of Vince? I'm trying to remember.
I want to say 17.
It was 17, right? Yeah, it was the Astrodome. Yeah, he did it in Texas.
Yeah.
Greatest pay-per-view of all time ended on that dud, right? Yeah. And like the fans were not there for that because they were like, wait, what? Why? Like it just didn't last, Yeah.
She's that rare commodity like Steve was, where they transcend as much as I like to have defined heels and baby faces, they transcend that classification and that distinction. They're just in a different category altogether. Regardless of what they do, people like them. They have connected with their audience and people want to cheer them regardless of what they do. They could go out there and slap little kittens, or I don't know. I didn't want to offend anybody, but but you know what I mean? But still they would be like, that kitten probably deserved it.
Right.
That's where they're at right now. So to have them be that heel persona, it's difficult. So if people aren't going to buy into it, why go forward with it? Instead of trying to, force it.
Right. Yeah. Well, with Twan Mock here saying, didn't the dirt sheets say Becky wanted to come back as a heel? I've read that as well. I believe that. But, at the same time, the reports say that Becky was supposed to come back and have this WrestleMania match with Bayley, and then they iced it for whatever reason. I think that I really think this is all about Bayley compensation. I think Bayley going down as the top heel, she's the 4 horsewomen kind of thing. Like with Bayley out for a prolonged period of time, who do you anchor on the SmackDown side as your top heel?
Right.
The call was made collectively, I'm sure, for Becky to take this chance and do it. But I think we're all seeing what many would have probably predicted would happen in a situation like this.
Yeah, and plus also the situation with Sasha Banks, because if you think about it, before Becky made that surprise return, she was a logical choice, I thought, for if you want that super heel on the female SmackDown side, and that didn't work out for whatever reason. So
yeah, well, we'll see. All the players are back on the board here again, so we'll see what happens. All right, last thing I want to bring up from Extreme Rules before we get into a couple other news items. I wanted to put over Damian Priest retaining the U.S. title over Sheamus and Jeff Hardy. I thought maybe outside of the main event, the best match on the show, these three guys all busted their asses out there. But this was the match to me that like really kind of personified this pay-per-view in a lot of ways, which was like the wrestling is not the problem right now, Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the investment. Like these guys killed themselves, and I don't feel any different about any of them on the other side of this thing after what I thought was a very, very good wrestling match.
It was a very, very good wrestling match. And, hats off to all of them. Like you said, they busted their bodies in this one. Everybody paid their price in this one, especially Sheamus, because, the issues with the nose. It's one thing to be in there and be in shape and be able to get your win. But when you have an issue with your nose, it's hard to breathe sometimes. But
right.
And obviously we saw the crowd was very much invested into Jeff Hardy. They were just they wanted him to win so badly. I think to some extent, Damian Priest was elevated a little, but not as much as they thought he would be. I mean, I like the moment at the end where him and Jeff Hardy had that moment, the come together moment where Jeff put him over, and and Damian Priest showed the respect to Jeff Hardy. But at the same time, I wanted to see a little more elevation of Damian Priest in that. I don't think it got quite to where they were hoping it would be.
Yeah, and again, I just feel like it's the general build, right? Like we've seen Sheamus and Priest a lot. Jeff Hardy is a nice element in it. Certainly did what they could with him. But the only reason Jeff Hardy's in the spot is because 2 weeks ago, the fans rebelled because they saw Jeff Hardy chasing the 24/7 championship around the arena. And we're like, what are you guys doing right now? This is the stupidest thing we've all seen, So
no, agreed. And at least this is a case where WWE kind of listened to their audience and said, okay, we'll pull him out of that situation and put him in this situation. And hopefully, take advantage of this to elevate our up and coming young talent. And like I said, I thought he got elevated a little, but not to the degree I was hoping he would.
Yeah. After the pay-per-view, there was the Broken Skull sessions with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Seth Rollins, where Rollins spoke extensively about his infamous 2019 Hell in a Cell match against The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. He told Austin that he was ready to strangle Vince McMahon when he came through the curtain because he was met with a lot of criticism from fans for that match. Later on Sunday, later last night, I guess, Wyatt noticed Rollins' comments, wrote the following: "Waited till you hear my reaction." Interestingly, Wyatt also tweeted a picture of him, the late Luke Harper, Brody Lee, and Eric Rowan facing the Usos and Daniel Bryan in a 6-man tag team steel cage match. Of course, the leading theory is that Bray will not be available to debut or sign anywhere until October 29th, but others believe he might actually be debuting this Wednesday night for AEW Rochester, the home of Brody Lee, on Dynamite, Jimmy.
Oh, interesting. And I know there was a special connection and bond between those guys, and it would only make sense, for it to happen this Wednesday. But at the same time, I don't know the legal ramifications. I don't know when he's actually legally able to appear for anyone else. As far as the comments from Seth Rollins go, unfortunately, I haven't, full disclosure here, I haven't had the opportunity to watch that Broken Skull sessions yet, which I'm looking forward to because I love that show. I love that everybody's kind of like allowed to just go out there and just, it's Steve. So you're going to say whatever comes to your mind, but
sure.
Did he explain exactly what it was about that match that he was unhappy with?
Now, to be fair, I have also not had the chance to watch this in full, as I watched Extreme Rules on an airplane last night. United Wi-Fi was able to hold up, but then just as it was the whole timing was perfect. I got in the air, the pay-per-view started, ended, and so I was unable to watch this as I was to put my laptop away and come home and sleep.
Right.
But yeah, no, it would just seem some frustrations here from Seth.
No, it does happen, and I give Seth credit for this because a lot of people, despite their frustrations with whatever might happen, don't have the cojones, as they say, to go up to Vince McMahon and a lot of people would be more diplomatic in the way they approach Vince. For him to be hot like that, I'll tell you this though. I will tell you this. Vince probably wasn't happy about the fact that he approached him like that, but at the same time, I could see Vince saying, I kind of like the fact that he stood up for himself like that. On one hand, he won't be happy, but on the other hand, it kind of gets him over, if that makes sense.
Well, and the thing about so I want to focus on this photo real quick, this 6-man tag match inside the steel cage. Mm-hmm. Daniel Bryan, one of the men on the other side of the cage, obviously is in AEW now, right? Brody Lee has unfortunately passed. Eric mm-hmm. Rowan is available. He's on the market, literally just sitting around doing nothing right now. Braun Strowman also on the market. Fully on the market. I believe his 90-day non-compete is well past at this point. Right. So you could do Bray, Eric, Braun all together as a group debuting in AEW across the ring from a Bryan. Maybe the Usos are replaced by mm-hmm. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, something like that. But that to me was the biggest tease so far, that Bray Wyatt is maybe AEW bound sooner than later. Was that photo?
No, it could very well be. But again, maybe a good problem to have is if these gentlemen end up joining AEW, again, you have this overloaded roster with some great talent and sometimes overshadowing some of the younger stars you want to build up, some of your, for lack of a better term, homegrown AEW talent. And, you've only got 3 hours a week of television to showcase this talent. And yes, I understand that they've got several hours on their YouTube channel and stuff like that. But right now, the money is in television, TBS, TNT, that sort of thing. And you run the risk of trying to cram too much into that 2 hours on Wednesday and the 1 hour on Friday to showcase all these talents. And if you do that, then it overshadows, what you're trying to do. If that makes it, I don't even know if I'm explaining this correctly, but it's
no. I think that what you're circling in on is like, how do you pick a direction and move with it when you have so many people kind of moving in all at once and disrupting the plans that you had in place, is kind of loosely what I took from that.
Yeah. Like we talked about Grand Slam last week, as much as I love that match between Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, at the same time, I thought it was, for me, and people were jumping all over me like, how can you be so negative? I thought it was too soon. That's all. It wasn't that I didn't enjoy the match. I love the match. I just thought that this could have built into something, where you got people invested in and either drawn a good number on a pay-per-view or drawn a bigger number on television by building more to this match, as opposed to, we talked about earlier, Bobby Lashley going in saying, I want a match against you. Okay, you got the match. Now, Bryan Danielson said, I want a match against Kenny Omega, even if it's not for the title.
Sure.
And he got granted the match. So is there a difference there, really, so to speak? I don't know.
Yeah. Good question. We also have, I like this one from Dave N. Will Lily be all elite? Would be really something, right? With Will Lily being destroyed at Extreme Rules. Maybe she shows up on Dynamite alongside Bray Wyatt.
Well, it depends on whether it's a 30-day or 90-day no-compete clause.
So let's get a little backstage insight. So as the professional wrestling business heats up here, obviously there's a big new name in WWE's universe. That is Nick Khan. WrestleVote saying that WWE president Nick Khan was backstage at SmackDown. He was around Vince. He was close to Vince throughout the day. The reason they had multiple meetings wasn't known, but it was noted by the source that Khan showing up at TV isn't an everyday thing. Well, that'll lead us into a report here from Fightful that says Vince and Nick met with Fox Sports CEO Eric Shanks and Fox Sports head of production Brad Zager the night before SummerSlam back in August. It was noted that the dinner between the two sides was at the Wynn in Las Vegas. Reportedly, and it lasted around 4 hours, was said to be productive from WWE's end. Now, McMahon and Khan decided on another move to further appease Fox management, as there was an episode of Raw that had been discussed for the Staples Center in L.A. And with Fox Sports being based out of L.A., Khan and McMahon reportedly quickly killed the idea and made the decision to instead have the first post-pandemic delay show in L.A. be an episode of SmackDown on Fox, scheduled for December 10th, which should be announced here pretty soon. So back in the summer, the relationship between these two sides apparently had become strained. A Fox source admitted that WWE viewership was disappointing in comparison to expectations. Quick to note that due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it was still hard to gauge where those numbers are going to level out, and that it was impossible to predict what happened in 2020 at the time the deal was reached or when the series began on Fox. Now, while the disappointing numbers were discussed by both Fox and WWE, have pointed to how they have the most watched wrestling TV show in the world, which is still very true. The same Fox source noted how hearing about Fox owner Rupert Murdoch likely being portrayed in a less than flattering way in the upcoming scripted Vince McMahon series, The United States of America versus Vince McMahon, saying it was a childish move that will not help the relationship between the two. Murdoch, this is crazy. Rupert Murdoch personally met with Stephanie, Triple H, and other executives in May 2018, said Fox would welcome them as they were after it was said USA Network was embarrassed and ashamed of WWE programming. It was noted that Vince has had at least one conversation with Rupert Murdoch in recent months, but that subject was reportedly not broached. Sources in WWE noted that the concern has not been raised to them and that the relationship between the McMahons and the Murdoch families are one of great respect. Anyway, a lot of words there, Jimmy. What were your takeaways from that?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot to digest there. And here's the problem with the television industry, especially when you have to satisfy two masters, so to speak. You know, you've got Fox Television on one hand, then you've got NBC Universal on the other, and Disney with the Peacock and all that sort of stuff. See, up here in Canada, it's all on all WWE programming is handled by Sportsnet up here in Canada. So it doesn't matter. So they could advertise whatever they want, but it's all one master up here. That's their television deal in Canada. But in the United States, again, you have to appease the Fox people. You have to appease the USA people. If you do something on Fox, the people at USA Network are going, or NBC Universal are going, why are they doing that over there? Why are they plugging Fox television programming on our television show and vice versa? So, but it only makes sense because the brand is the same. It's WWE branded television. Mm-hmm. So to WWE, it makes sense for them to plug on either Raw or NXT what's coming up this Friday on SmackDown. But you know, do the Fox executives see it the same way? That's the hard thing, is you're trying to please two masters. Would it make sense for them to get all their programming onto one television platform, kind of like AEW? They have TBS and TNT, which is basically the same company.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Oh, it's Warner Media. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're all under the same umbrella. They're only,
exactly.
they're just trying to cater to Warner Media. Yeah. The question for me when I continue to watch these moves is like, what happens here in 2023, 2024, when these TV rights come up? You know, Fox is obviously getting, I feel, treated better than USA. I wonder if that's because Fox invested in first run programming and USA's $1 billion deal had, while it does have to do with first run programming, also had a lot to do with their archive content over moving to Peacock and stuff. So it's kind of a differently structured deal. When we go into the TV rights renewals here in a couple of years, not too distant future, I do wonder how much WWE's appeasement of Fox affects their ability to negotiate with NBC, because you would think of the two that NBC would have the bigger interest in making a play to buy WWE or bring them fully back under the umbrella because of the long relationship, because of how NBC can work with a property like WWE. It's a little different than Fox. I don't know how that plays out. Like, are they taking value away from the table right now with USA by showing so much to Fox? Do they make USA jealous, where USA is like, we'll pay you more if we can get that Fox love or more, right? And then where does AEW wind up in all of this? Like, do they stay loyal to Warner Media if WWE does leave Fox, or WWE vice versa leaves NBC to go more fully with Fox? Do both of these big platforms that are in the pro wrestling business look to fill that void with the other hot commodity on the market? It's going to be a really interesting time here.
It is a very interesting time. And like you said, let's say for you know, shiggles, as they say, I don't know, can we say that on the air here? You know, let's say that WWE does decide to go with one broadcast partner, whether it is NBC Universal or Fox. And yes, I understand that the AEW team would probably want to stay loyal to Turner Media for giving them that opportunity to expand that business and make them what they are today. But at the same time, it is at the end of the day a business. And let's say WWE moves all their programming to Fox. that leaves NBC Universal with a gaping hole that maybe a company like AEW can fill. And maybe someone like Turner Broadcasting would be okay with them adding additional programming to an NBC Universal, because who knows? It's going to be an interesting time. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's just there's just so much going on, and so much going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. The speculation about WWE possibly feeling the waters about a potential sale is also out there. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I have a feeling that it's going to be a lot more real, as we get closer to these TV rights fees coming up. I think that Nick Khan has done a really good job of kind of keeping the door open to that, right? Like, we're totally not interested. We're not interested. Vince doesn't want to sell, but, we're also business people. So if you have something in mind, he's done a great job with that.
No, he has. And like you said, as long as you leave that door open, there's always the possibility of entering.
So a couple items here before we get to Ariane, my latest talk with Ariane, and then we'll dive into the mailbag. And again, we're just 13 minutes away from my conversation with Ariane debuting on YouTube. PWInsider.com saying Grand Metalik is unhappy in WWE. On top of Grand Metalik being unhappy in WWE, which we reported last week. Lince Dorado also unhappy. Same reasons. Both Lucha House Party members have been seen at multiple TV tapings waiting to speak with officials due to unhappiness and how they are currently being used. No word on if Dorado has requested his release. Of course, we reported Grand Metalik has. Mas Lucha reported that first. But any takeaways from the Lucha House Party guys being disgruntled and not being able to get time with those in power to discuss these frustrations?
No, I could totally understand it. And especially in this current environment where we're getting the feedback from those that are going over to AEW that the possibility of having more creative freedom and having more input as opposed to the more structured WWE system, getting to, be more of yourself as opposed to what they're giving you and what you're being handed. That's at least the perception that's out there right now.
Yeah.
Maybe they're buying into it and they're thinking maybe there's an opportunity there, especially considering that, you look at some of the lucha stars that are there right now in AEW and maybe they want to work with a Ray and Pentagon and,
Well, and it's not just AEW, I feel like, for these guys. Now, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and pretend to say that I'm exceptionally fluent with how the Lucha Libre scene is down in Mexico, but I do believe CMLL is less active at the moment than AAA. I know there's CMLL stars that have kind of made their way over to AAA recently, which has raised some eyebrows down there, or whatever. But Grand Metalik, one of the greatest luchadors in the world. Lince, also very, very talented. But there is, you look at what AAA is doing down in Mexico right now, how you have stars like Andrade and Omega and other guys that have been able to work at Triple H, but then also gravitate over to an AEW or maybe elsewhere. I think both these guys know that it's a bigger net for them than just AEW. There's a lot of talent that I feel like was released that is very good for the North American market. But these two guys have to know that there's more opportunities beyond that market, I think, for them where they can really make some money.
No, especially considering, I brought up AEW, but AEW has been very open to working with other organizations. So that's why I brought them up, because there is that potential for them to work. There is that kind of open door policy with them and a little bit of Impact Wrestling. And like you said, AAA and other organizations, even some New Japan stuff. So I think maybe that those guys are looking at different opportunities now.
Speaking of opportunities, Riddick Moss got one. He returned to WWE TV after helping Happy Corbin attack Kevin Owens. Fightful saying Moss never appeared after the draft last year. There's another draft next week, so WWE felt there was no harm in him starting a team with Corbin. It was also noted in the report that Moss wrestled for a while last year with an ACL injury, and WWE officials said they were shocked and impressed due to the nature of the injury. Wow.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I couldn't imagine working like that. And how was it noticed? So that speaks volumes to how he hid it. I don't know how you hide something like that.
I don't either. And what kind of a message that's into the locker room where it's like, this guy fought through an ACL tear. You should all fight through ACL tears.
Here's the funny thing, though. But in WWE, they're so conscious about that sort of stuff. So, were they aware of it? Were they not aware of it? And if they weren't aware of it, again, speaks to Riddick Moss for being able to hide it for so long.
Yeah, no kidding. Stellar Justin Lopez 2.0, Riddy Mo. So anyway, I'm interested to see where these two go. And then last year, before we get to Ariane and then the mailbag, the Observer saying AEW wanted to name the upcoming Owen Hart Cup tournament winner the King of Hearts, but they were blocked from using that name. Now, there's no word on who's preventing AEW from using the King of Hearts name. WWE does not currently have that trademark. So while WWE does not have a trademark for the name, AEW filed to trademark King of Hearts back on July 28th. There is a King of Hearts clothing line founded by actress Melissa Joan Hart and her husband, Mark Wilkerson. And that brand caters to hip casual boys wear and has been around since 2015. But I'm pretty sure Melissa Joan Hart is a giant pro wrestling fan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that surprises me hearing that. And especially, obviously she's had a history of appearing on programming. So, you think you would make at least an exception in this case because it is for a worthwhile charity. And like I said before on my social media stuff, hats off to AEW for absolutely making this happen because this another step forward in the healing process of this. I know it happened a while ago, but still, you never forget something like this. And it was, this tragedy, but at the same time, helping not only wrestling fans, but those of us who knew and loved Owen. Yeah, man, I don't know. It hits close to home for me. And I hope they can work this out.
All right, Jimmy. Well, I want to thank you for joining me at the top of the show to talk all of the pro wrestling news from this past weekend. Thank you very much to Ariane Andrew for taking the time to speak with me a little bit more. Always love having Ariane on the show. Go check out her new song with Muguletta, Bubblegum. It's great. And keep the conversation going. We got a little bit more to go here before we throw to the YouTube channel premiere my conversation with Ariane. Jump in the comments section. I'll do my best to get a couple more comments up on the screen. But lastly here, the mailbag at Wink Daily, WINC Daily over on Twitter. We're at 1,285 followers. On our road to 1,666 followers by Halloween. A super spooky number for the holidays is what we're hoping for, Jimmy.
Ooh, yeah. As long as we don't, maybe after Halloween, we'll get the newer version of Alexa Bliss. I'm just hoping again.
Okay. Yeah. Trick or treat. That could be a treat. So today's poll question, who would you like to see win the 2021 Men's Royal Rumble match? This stems from the announcement that came out just this morning. The Rumble is going to take place Saturday, January 29th from the Dome at America Center in St. Louis, Missouri. It's going to be the largest event to ever host the Royal Rumble. The Dome's full stadium setup holds 67,277 fans for NFL games, 40,000 for other half stadium setups such as basketball games, and tickets are going to go on sale Friday, October 15th. Back to St. Louis, they're headed, Jimmy.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I'm just curious as to what setup they're going to go with. It almost feels like that the Royal Rumble has become their second favorite pay-per-view amongst fans as opposed to SummerSlam, which is supposed to be the second biggest, but people just love that Royal Rumble. I do too.
Well, I think the Rumble and Money in the Bank have I'd even put maybe Money in the Bank over SummerSlam, honestly. And the reason is because these are shows that have actual stakes, Jimmy. Like you can win things that mean something that are going to affect storylines for a good amount to come. And SummerSlam is kind of hit or miss in that regard.
Yeah, and also in the Royal Rumble, as we've seen in recent years, we get some wonderful surprise returns or pop-ups that show up in the Rumble that get incredible reactions. Do I have to say it? Edge?
Oh, yeah, Edge, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Sean Waltman recently said he wants to come back at the Rumble. That was another one that just got thrown out there. Cheap plug, Pro Wrestling for Life. Go check it out.
There you go.
So I asked everybody, the names I threw up were Damian Priest, Omos, Keith Lee, or somebody else. We got over 400 votes here in an hour, and it was pretty much a blowout, Jimmy. 52.7% would like to see Keith Lee win the Royal Rumble. Over 20% for Damian Priest, 22% for somebody else, and only 7% from Omos. Keith Lee, a man who has not been on TV in over a month, was given muddled booking at best upon his return, and is now being workshopped as a heel, given the Bearcat name, is according to this poll still the person that fans connect with and most would like to see win this Royal Rumble match. What does that tell you, Jimmy?
I find that very interesting. Like you said, he hasn't been on TV in so long, and people still want to see him succeed and move forward. To me, personally, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done before they get there. He can't just show up and do it, so to speak. Like out of the blue, and all of a sudden, here we're going to go from here. Can it be done? Absolutely. Where he does just show up, he wins the Rumble match, and then builds from there to WrestleMania. But that's a more difficult road, in my opinion. I'd like to see something. Recently we had Randy Orton challenge for the WWE Championship against Bobby Lashley. Maybe a Matt Riddle wins. Because obviously people are anticipating a split somewhere down the road between Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, and maybe this could be the precipice for it, for lack of a better term.
There were quite a few write-ins for Riddle, and he does seem to be there right now for the fans. I'm not going to say that I'm ruling him out. We'll just see if this is, see if it's too early. If they think it's too early, if they're going to try to catch lightning in a bottle right now, Right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Speaking of lightning in a bottle, the only writing I'm going to read, because we got to wrap up here. Yeah. David, we want Braun Breaker. Now, look, I can't think of a star that has come in and had this kind of an impact on wrestling fans in some time. This guy's got something special, Jimmy.
Yeah, and sometimes it's that intangible that you just can't put into words, but he is connecting with the audience. People are loving him. And again, you don't want to speed this up too fast, but at the same time, you don't want to miss this opportunity.
Here you go, Jimmy. I want to thank you so much again for joining me here today. Ariane, everybody, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. We're 3 minutes away from my latest conversation with Ariane debuting over on YouTube. Get some coffee, get some oatmeal, get a bagel, whatever you want. Prepare yourself, come back, jump in the chat room, watch that show. Jimmy, before we wrap it up here today, is there anything that you would like to plug, promote, or put over?
Oh, absolutely. You can follow me on all my social media at Jimmy Korderas on Twitter, at Real Jimmy Korderas Instagram, where I do my weekday ref and rants. As you can see, you can get your ref and rant t-shirts at prowrestlingtees.com. Oh, was that a blur? Was that a blur?
No.
This way. Yes. Yeah. And again, not meant to throw anybody under the bus, just having fun because I want to see the business as a whole get better. And that's just it.
That's it, everybody. We all want to see the business get better. And I hope we make the business a little bit better tomorrow. My co-host tomorrow is supposed to be EJ Cameron, but he got booked this morning. So I sent out an invite this morning to another guest co-host. It's not you, Jimmy. Sorry. It'll be somebody else that'll be joining me to talk the news of the day tomorrow. And my guest tomorrow is going to be a member of the Anawahi family. Jacob Fatu, the MLW World Heavyweight Champion, is going to be in the house here tomorrow. He's got a big title versus title match against Alexander Hammerstone this weekend at MLW Fightland. Hard interview to get, and I'm very happy we got him, and I think you guys are going to really, really like this one tomorrow. So come on back for both of those. And if you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com. We're on all the socials, and of course, the Wrestling Inc. podcast goes live at night after the big shows, including tonight after Raw, just like this, but at night, different faces, different punditry. I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Give me a follow. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.